He doesn't always have the words, and maybe neither do you, but there's something between you, something that defies logic, time, and distance. Have you ever wondered why he keeps coming back in dreams? Why his silence feels louder when you're most aligned? Or why, even after everything, your soul still whispers, "He feels me"? That's because he does. The divine masculine doesn't fall for appearances. He doesn't get pulled by performance. He is magnetized by something ancient, something only your energy can carry. Even when he runs, he's chasing the part of himself that you reflect. Even when he's silent, your presence echoes inside him. And even when he claims he's fine without you, his soul knows better. Because there are things about the divine feminine that awaken him. Shake him, heal him, test him. And while his ego may try to resist, his spirit is drawn to you again and again for one sacred reason. You are the mirror. You are the key. You are the one who remembers who he truly is. Today, we unveil the 6 things about you. Yes, you that call him back, not through force, but through frequency. So as you listen, feel the truth in your body. Let your soul remember what your mind was never meant to explain. Because when he sees you, he doesn't just see a person, he sees the portal back to himself. Let's begin. Sign number 1. He feels drawn to her peace. He doesn't always know how to name it, but the first thing he feels is a peace that unsettles him. The divine feminine carries a silence that isn't empty. It's full of presence, full of clarity, full of knowing. When the masculine enters her field, even unconsciously, it's like stepping out of noise and into a temple. And he feels it, sometimes for the first time. Not the silence that comes from suppression, but the silence that comes from power. You've been through storms. You've loved and lost. You've been broken open and rebuilt by the universe, over and over. And what you carry now is the vibration of someone who no longer chases, someone who remembers. Have you ever noticed how he softens when he's near you, even if he's guarded? How his voice changes, how his eyes linger, how the tension drops from his body, even if just for a moment. That's not imagination. That's nervous system recognition. His soul remembers you as safety. His spirit reads your peace as truth. But here's the paradox. That same peace attracts him and confronts him. Because while his soul craves your calm, his unhealed ego fears it. Why? Because your stillness reflects his chaos. Your stability exposes his imbalance. Your softness calls out his defense mechanisms, and in your peace, he meets the parts of himself that are still at war. That's why he may pull away after feeling close. That's why sometimes, after a deep connection, he disappears, because your energy didn't just soothe him, it awakened what he's been avoiding, and yet he can't stay away. He may try to explain it through attraction, chemistry, even confusion, but what he's really feeling is alignment. He's drawn to the frequency of wholeness in you, a vibration that doesn't demand, doesn't beg, doesn't chase. Do you remember the moment you stopped trying to convince him to stay? The moment you chose to sit with your own soul and anchor into your truth. That was the moment your peace became magnetic. And whether he admits it or not, he felt it. You became the place he wanted to run to, and the mirror he wasn't ready to face. But this is the sacred pull of the divine feminine. She doesn't pull through force, she pulls through presence. And in your stillness, he feels the space to finally breathe, to unravel, to feel what he's been numbing, to remember what his soul has always known. You are not just a peaceful presence. You are the invitation to peace within him. That's why he thinks of you when the world is too loud. That's why you show up in his quietest moments. That's why, even when you're gone, your energy stays. Because what he really desires is the version of himself that only exists when he's near your peace. Have you noticed how his energy shifts when you're grounded in your truth? Have you felt him draw closer the more you let go? Comment, "I am peace," below if this resonates with what you've experienced. Sign Natu. Her energy feels like home. He may not understand it consciously, but something within him already knows the way your presence softens his breath, knows the way your silence says more than 1,000 words, knows the way your soul remembers his, even if he hasn't remembered himself yet. Have you ever noticed the way he relaxes near you, even when his words are guarded? Have you felt how the tension in him dissolves just for a moment when he's around you? That's not a coincidence, it's recognition. There is something ancient in you, something deep and familiar in your presence, a quality of energy that doesn't demand anything from him, and yet calls him back to everything he is. Not the surface version, not the conditioned one, but the essence underneath. That is why your energy feels like home to him, not because you comfort his ego, but because you bypass it entirely. You speak to the soul underneath the armor, and without even trying, you remind him of what he forgot. that he is more than the world told him to be, that he is not broken, not lost, not too late, that he belongs. He may not have the words for it. He might call it peace or say you feel safe. But what he's actually experiencing is soul coherence, a resonance that tells him, you've been here before, you know this, and that knowing both calms him and terrifies him, because it threatens everything he built to survive. The detachment, the control, the overthinking, the mask he wears to avoid the very intimacy his heart craves. You don't try to fix him. You don't need to. Your presence reminds him that he doesn't have to be fixed to be loved. That healing doesn't require him to bleed for anyone. That worthiness isn't something he earns. It's something he remembers. That's what home feels like. It doesn't beg you to change. It invites you to rest, to breathe, to be. And that's what he feels with you, even when he doesn't show it. You've likely felt the pull too, that strange sense of being tethered to him, not through obsession, but through purpose. Like your connection is not an accident, like it chose you before you chose each other. Have you ever asked yourself why you still care, even when logic tells you not to? Why you still feel connected, even when time and space say otherwise? Why you still feel his energy, even when he's nowhere near? That's not longing, that's remembering. That's the frequency of reunion echoing in your field. He feels it. He just doesn't know how to translate it yet, because to fully return to you, he must first return to himself, and that's the hardest journey he's ever faced, to remove the mask, to admit the ache, to soften the parts of himself that forgot how to trust. But you are not here to save him. You are here to embody you, to be the flame, not the lighthouse, to hold your frequency with such steadiness that even in the chaos, he feels your peace. You are the one who went first, the one who stayed awake, the one who chose truth over comfort, and that is what he is drawn to, not your perfection, not your beauty, but your alignment, because that alignment feels like home. And no matter how far he runs, the soul always returns home. Have you ever felt that deep down, he senses something sacred in your presence? Do you feel like your energy stabilizes him, even in his silence? Comment, I am his home frequency, if your heart knows this truth. Sign 3. Her eyes see through his mask. There's something about the way you look at him that unsettles everything he thought he had under control. He may be composed on the outside, confident even, But the moment your eyes meet his, something deep inside him stirs. Because you don't just look at him, you see him. You see past the surface, past the roles, past the charm, past the excuses. You see what he doesn't show and what he doesn't even know how to explain. And that terrifies him. Because the world taught him to wear a mask, to be strong, to pretend, to hide his soft parts behind ambition, humor, silence, or distance. And it worked until he met you, until your gaze shattered his performance without saying a single word, until your presence made his guard feel heavy, unnecessary, exhausting. Have you noticed how sometimes he avoids eye contact at the very moments you're reaching out with your heart? Have you felt that split-second pause in him, as if your presence touched something he didn't want awaken? It's because your soul sees the boy he abandoned, the ache he buried, the truth he's not yet ready to live. You see the man he is becoming, not the one he pretends to be. And you reflect it with such purity, such clarity, that he doesn't know how to receive it. Because for so long, he's believed that love meant pleasing, proving, protecting, not being seen in his unfinished, messy truth. But when you look at him, you don't flinch, you don't run, you don't punish his vulnerability. You hold it, you honor it. And that's something he's never fully felt before. You've probably felt it too, that his silence isn't rejection, but retreat. That his detachment isn't about you, but about his fear of being seen too much, too fast. And yet, your soul won't allow you to pretend with him either, because what connects you both isn't a performance, it's a mirror. And this mirror is sacred. Have you ever wondered why you can't unsee the truth in him, no matter how far he runs? Why you still see his soul behind his coldness, his confusion, or his distance? It's because your soul signed a contract with his, to remind him of who he truly is. But this gift is also a weight, because seeing someone's soul doesn't mean they're ready to meet it. And holding that vision takes strength, patience, and deep self-love. You weren't sent to chase him. You weren't sent to convince him. You were sent to reflect his light until he chooses to stand in it on his own. And make no mistake, he feels it. Even when he doesn't admit it, even when he pulls away, even when he runs. Your eyes are like portals. They speak a truth his heart remembers, even if his mind resists. And though he may not say it, that truth echoes in him long after you're gone. It lingers, it heals, it haunts, it calls. because your gaze is the first time he felt fully seen, not for what he gives, but for what he is. And that is magnetic, not because it flatters his ego, but because it bypasses it. Have you ever felt exhausted from holding this kind of truth for someone? Do you ever ask, why me? Why do I see so deeply into someone who doesn't even meet my gaze? It's because this sight is not ordinary, it's sacred. And it's not a mistake that you carry it. You're not here to dim your light just because he's not ready. You're here to stay in your seeing, even if he hasn't come home to it yet. Because when you stay anchored in that clarity, not waiting, not pushing, just witnessing, you become the very mirror he needs to remember his way back. Your gaze doesn't just see through his mask, it dismantles the lie that he ever needed one in the first place. Have you ever felt like your eyes reach places in him he's afraid to visit alone? Have you felt him shift, even in silence, just from your presence? Comment, I see his truth below if your soul recognizes this kind of vision. Sign 4. Her emotional depth triggers his awakening. He thought he knew what emotion was. He thought he had felt love, loss, and longing before. But then you came in with a softness that wasn't fragile. It was fierce. You showed him that depth isn't weakness. That feeling isn't failure. That there is a power in your vulnerability that shakes the ground beneath everything he thought made him strong. Your emotional range isn't just impressive, it's disarming. Because while the world told him to stay neutral, numb, composed, you move with emotion like it's sacred. And to his guarded soul, that is both terrifying and magnetic. Have you noticed how he sometimes pulls away when you express too much? Have you felt him become overwhelmed not by your anger, but by your honesty? It's not because you're too much. It's because your truth is the one thing he's been trained to suppress. You feel. You cry without shame. You speak from wounds and still find beauty in your scars. And that cracks something open in him. Because deep down, he's longing for that same permission. He aches to feel. But the masculine wound is this. He was taught to survive, not to feel. He doesn't yet know how to stand in a storm without armor. He doesn't yet trust that someone could love his unfiltered grief. But when you show up, raw, real, radiant, you become his mirror and his medicine. Your emotional depth calls out to the places he buried long ago, the parts of him that used to feel deeply, the parts that cried in secret, the parts that believed that sensitivity was a curse. And now you're reminding him that it's his greatest untapped gift. Your presence asks him to stop performing and start feeling, to stop analyzing and start allowing, to stop running and start returning to his own heart. Have you ever noticed how your emotions seem to amplify when he's near, even if he's silent? Have you felt tears surface, memories rise, or energies shift when you're thinking about him? That's not weakness. That's activation. You're both connected in a field that runs deeper than thought. And when your soul expresses freely, it sends ripples through his own emotional landscape. Even if he doesn't respond, even if he doesn't reach back, even if he doesn't have the language yet for what he feels. But he does feel. He feels the way your sadness isn't manipulative, it's magnetic. He feels how your joy isn't performative, it's permission. He feels how your truth makes him question every place where he's still hiding. You are not emotional for no reason. You are emotional because you're tuned in. You are emotional because you're alive. And he longs for that aliveness more than he knows how to admit. Because deep down, his soul knows it's her emotional depth that will awaken my own. It's her ability to love herself in all states, weeping, raging, resting, laughing, that teaches me what real wholeness is. You are not too much. You are the medicine he never knew he needed. And even when he pushes you away, he carries the imprint of your emotional truth in his chest. Because once the masculine is touched by the divine feminine's raw heart, he can never go back to sleep fully. Have you ever been told you're too emotional? Have you ever felt your emotional honesty awaken something in someone, even if they didn't say it out loud? Comment, "My heart is my power," if you know your feelings are a sacred gift, not a flaw. Sign 5. He feels drawn to her sacred confidence. There's something about the way you walk into a room, not loud, not seeking, but present, rooted, real. It's not arrogance, it's not pride. It's a quiet frequency that says, I know who I am, and I don't need you to tell me. To the divine masculine, this kind of confidence is not just attractive, it's disruptive. Because he was raised in a world that taught him to chase approval, to compete, to dominate, just to feel secure. And suddenly, here you are, not chasing anyone, not proving anything, just being. And in that being, he feels himself unravel. Because your sacred confidence isn't about perfection, it's about embodiment. It's the way you own your wounds without letting them define you. The way you walk with grace through shadows and still choose softness. The way you trust your path even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Have you noticed how he watches you when you're not performing, when you're just in your energy, fully aligned, whether you're laughing with friends, creating something with your hands, or simply sitting in stillness? That gaze he gives you, it's not just desire, it's remembrance. His soul remembers the feeling of being held by a presence that doesn't shrink to fit him, a presence that doesn't try to win him, but simply exists in her own light. You've probably had moments when he looked at you like he wanted to say something but didn't. Moments where his silence felt heavy, loaded, deep. It's because your self-assurance speaks to the part of him that's still unsure, and that unsettles him. Because in your sacred confidence, he sees all the places where he still wears a mask, where he still seeks validation, where he still fears that if he stops performing, he won't be enough. But you move differently. You are enough before anyone chooses you. You are enough without a title, a role, a label. You are enough because you know you are. And that knowing, that's what he feels drawn to. It's not just the curve of your smile or the warmth in your laugh, though he loves those too. It's the frequency behind them, the place in you that no longer begs to be seen, but simply shines. Have you ever been told you're intimidating? Have people called you too much, not because you were loud, but because you were clear? That's the effect of sacred confidence. And he feels it, even if he can't name it, even if he tries to run from it, even if he tests it, trying to find the crack in your wholeness, not to hurt you, but to confirm if it's real. Because he's not used to love that doesn't chase. He's not used to light that doesn't demand to be held. But he's drawn to it, to you, because in your self-possession, he sees a glimpse of who he could become, not if he earns you, but if he remembers himself through you. This kind of attraction is deeper than chemistry. It's spiritual magnetism. It's soul activation. And it doesn't fade. Because sacred confidence isn't a phase. It's a frequency. And once a man has tasted the energy of a woman who belongs to herself, nothing else ever truly satisfies. Have you noticed that the more you love and accept yourself, the more others feel magnetized to you, even in silence? Comment, "I belong to myself," if your confidence is sacred and rooted in truth, not approval. Sign 6. Her love calls forth his higher self. There's a kind of love that doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't scream to be heard, and yet it transforms. The divine feminine carries a frequency in her love that isn't demanding, but awakening. It doesn't try to fix him, it invites him. And that invitation is silent, powerful, undeniable. It's the way she holds space, not by force, but by simply being. It's the way her love sees beyond the brokenness, the fear, the projection, and touches the part of him he's kept hidden even from himself. And that part begins to stir. He doesn't always understand why he feels both magnetized and uncomfortable in her presence. Why one part of him wants to move closer, while another part wants to run. But it's because her love doesn't settle for the surface. It calls to the deepest layers of who he truly is. Have you ever noticed how he lingers around your energy, even after long silences? How he returns not because you asked, but because something within him remembers. That's what sacred love does. It reminds him of himself. And that remembering can be terrifying because it requires him to let go of everything false he's built. The masks, the roles, the coping mechanisms, the image. You, in your wholeness, mirror back what he's been avoiding, not to shame him, but to free him. Because your love doesn't say, "You must be perfect for me." It whispers, "I see your soul, even while you're still becoming." And that's the deepest kind of attraction. It goes beyond beauty, beyond compatibility, beyond timelines. It's a soul-to-soul recognition. And for the divine masculine, it's one of the rarest experiences he'll ever encounter, because so few have loved him without conditions. But you don't love him for who he pretends to be. You love him in alignment, in truth, in sovereignty. You hold the flame of your own self-worth so steady that it lights a path for him. Not to follow you, but to find himself, and that changes everything. Because in your love, he realizes that real union is not about filling voids. It's about rising into wholeness. It's about meeting heart to heart, not from need, but from depth. He starts to crave growth, not because you asked, but because your presence makes stagnation impossible. He starts to look at his patterns, his wounds, his shadows, not because you made him feel broken, but because your light reveals what's no longer true. This is the kind of love that doesn't rush him, but doesn't wait either. It walks its own path. It trusts the process. It holds space without losing itself. And that space, it's sacred, because it's within that space that the divine masculine begins to rise, not as a reaction to you, but as a remembering of who he's always been beneath the noise. Have you felt that your love activates people around you even when you say nothing. Have you noticed that your presence stirs something deeper in those who enter your energy? If so, comment, "I awaken through love" below, and let your soul speak for those who are just now learning how to listen. Because your love is not ordinary. It's a mirror. It's a fire. It's a home. And for the right soul, it will be the invitation that changes everything.